Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Having a life coach can really, really make a difference in your life in terms of moving it in the direction you want to go, dealing with traumas that you're aware of or maybe you're not aware of. How do you find somebody to be your coach? Think about major athletes. They all have coaches. They have multiple coaches to move their life forward. How did they pick them? How do you pick a coach to move your life forward? She is an amazing one, not only a life coach, but also a speaker and an author and a cancer survivor. And she's all about the hydrated life. And she's back with us. Patti McGee is on the program. Hi there, Patti. How are you?
I'm great, Steve. How are you? Thanks, for inviting me back. This has been awesome. And, just enjoyable. Get the
Same
word
here.
out there to people to help them. And that's what life's about, is working together.
Yeah, and that's coming from somebody who went through lots of challenges, saw the benefits of having, call it a care team, also a
Yes.
life coach,
Yeah.
went down that road to help other people. When you're in that situation where I need some help, I can't do this alone. How do you make that? How do you make the decision you need a life coach? Is it just what I said or more? And how do you pick one that's going to do the job for you?
Exactly. Sometimes they just fall in your lap. I mean, that sometimes that's like just the best thing that can happen to you. But when looking at what kind of coach you need, and you should have multiple, as you mentioned, athletes have an array of them. I had an array of them. I started with a personal trainer who
Wow.
ended up, yeah, I won a gift certificate at a chiropractor's office towards a gym membership, and
Hmm.
that started there. And
Wow.
then it just led into a spiritual counselor, which then led to my life coaching, and then led to a life coach itself, to help me get the business moving along. So I needed a business coach, but also someone that could see my blind spots that helped me break free from them. So,
I want to go back. I find it interesting, the trainer, right? Which just
yes.
kind of fell in your lap. It was a gift certificate and you
Okay.
started there.
Yeah.
Um, and I bring this up because I had one too. And she was part of a circle of friends. Everyone's like super close friends with her, but we were all kind of hang out every once in a while all together. Kind of don't do that anymore. Uh, since gained weight, feel like garbage.
Yeah.
And it's, I keep thinking, and every once in a while I'll text her, hey, how's it going? What are you doing this weekend? What are your plans? What are my plans? Um, but the one thing I do remember was along with the fitness aspect of it, we also talked about a couple of personal things and goals like that. And yeah, that's one of the things. I mean, I know that you would agree that you got to work on your health, fitness, things like that for the other stuff to work well emotionally and all. Did
Yes.
you find you had that type of relationship with that trainer at that time?
Yes. And then what she couldn't help me with, she referred me to somebody.
Okay.
And that's what, and she stepped aside when she said she was either too close to the situation with me, because I went through a lot of grief when we were friends. And,
Hmm.
she couldn't handle that. So she stepped away from that part of it and introduced me to somebody else.
Wow. So, like you said, it just dropped in your lap, and
Yeah.
she was the conduit to somebody else, and maybe somebody else.
Yes.
Interesting. All right.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah. Which gave me an idea of what I wanted, because becoming a life coach, I absolutely picked the wrong program to get my certification. And I didn't know it at the time. I practically bought my life coaching certification. So then I had to go back through and find another certification that would teach me the setup of the business and how to run it and how to get the clients in that. So
So
you,
I have to believe, though, it wasn't a complete waste.
oh, absolutely not. I met some phenomenal people. Yeah, no, nothing in life is ever a waste unless you choose it to be.
Yeah.
Even
I'm
all my
like
even
you
all
said.
my years of drinking and hating myself wasn't a waste, because it made me who I am today. It made
Yeah.
me fight for me.
Well, there's the difference in the mindset when anybody looks at it from a different way instead of like the victim, like, oh, I can't believe that happened to me. Why this again? Why that again? I had
Yeah.
something just happen to me yesterday, and it was just like, what? I'm pretty major, gotta say,
Yeah.
It's been it's been an interesting 2 weeks, let's just say that. Um, but it didn't really shake me. It's like, okay, this was supposed to happen, and it was. I'm not even surprised by it. I just want to deal with it, but I did. And all right, so move that off the stack and keep moving forward. And it's like,
Yes.
call me from Finding Nemo, call me Dory, keep swimming, just
And
keep swimming. And that's what I believe in.
yes.
Once you stop, you're not going anywhere, and that's not a good thing.
And that's why a lot of people stay in the drugs and in the alcohol and that, because they don't know how to get out of it. They don't have that strength, that inner strength. And sometimes my own fault is knowing myself way too well. So that could be a hindrance too sometimes.
Hmm.
But
You know what? I'm going to take what you just said and think about that today,
yeah.
because I think I know myself quite well, uh, and even more so in the last couple of years. And I don't know. I'm trying to decide if that's a bad thing that it gets in your way. How would it get into your way? How did it get in your way?
Well, sometimes we don't deal with certain things because we already know us. So that's why we need that other person to move us forward, you know.
Okay.
Um,
Do you think it
in
comes from I don't mean to cut you off, but
No, that's good.
do you think it comes from a place of, I mean this in a sincere way, like a know-it-all, like I know me, so I don't need help from, that, and I don't need that, and I don't need that.
No, for me, it comes from a place of still not accepting certain things that I don't want to step into.
Or
Yeah,
deal with.
I'm not ready to to take that on yet. So
Okay.
it's still a place of safety for me that I
Got it.
protect myself.
Okay.
Okay.
Uh-huh. It's
So
you just don't
when
want to deal.
when I'm ready, then I'll release it.
So with getting back to finding the right life coach, is that one of those things where that person will help you release it, sort of like unscrew the jar on top of your head, and let those things come out a little bit? Do you think
Yes,
that?
because you should be moving on. So you can't stay with the same coach for 10 years. I mean, you can technically, but it's not healthy to stay with just one coach for 10 years.
Hmm,
You know, they take you so far and you have to recognize when it's time to move on.
interesting.
And sometimes we become so codependent on our coaches that we don't want to separate.
Yeah,
So you have to know yourself and know what's going on. And it took me a hard fall to figure that out. You know,
in that.
Unfortunately, my personal trainer and I separated ways on a bad note rather than a positive, because
Hmm,
we were too intertwined with each other. So that's why you have to know what your goal is. Okay. And that's the first step. Determine what your goal is in seeking out the coach. Make sure you're clear on it,
right,
um,
right.
you know, and understand their role in your life. Don't expect more from them than what they can provide for you.
Understood. And you brought
Yeah.
back a memory where I was working with a psychiatrist. Um, and I first had this person 10 years ago after something major, and then picked up a couple of years ago, since parted ways, all good. But I realized that not serving me anymore. It's,
Yeah.
served its purpose sort of then, but not, later in life. Um, and just, I felt I wasn't getting anything out of it. And he was focused on the things that I didn't feel that needed to be focused on. He
Yeah.
was focused more on logistics, where I was focusing more on emotions. Um,
Yeah.
and everybody's different. Like, I would rather work with a woman than work with a male. Just the way
Okay.
that's, everybody has their own preference.
Yep.
And that can change. That can change. But, based on my experience, that's what I see. That's my feelings.
We're more nurturing. We understand that emotional
Yeah.
part of it. Where
Yeah.
guys are more cut and dry. Let's, deal with whatever. And but there's, either way, there's both good male and female coaches out there and therapists, and you have to, seek recommendations. Like you said, you got to know your personal trainer because she was in a group of you. And that's usually a referral is a really good way
It
from
was.
somebody that
Yep.
versus, scrolling through your phone,
Yeah,
you
I
know.
totally agree.
Um,
And sometimes they can help you move it forward where it is challenging nowadays in many areas to find help. Be whether it's a life coach, therapist, anybody that in that category, there are some challenges.
yeah, there are. And especially you want to make sure you know what what you're looking for because people will lead you in many different directions. I'm more of an inner healing coach. I want to take those emotions, those feelings that are holding you back so that you could step out into a life that's just beautiful and you're not hiding inside all the time because you're afraid to go and do something from your past that we need to clear
Yeah. Yeah.
and and use multiple techniques to get you through it.
How about some of the other ways to find the right life coach? Things that you should look for. Should you even write it down? Make a list. This is what
Oh
I'm.
yeah, absolutely make a list. Read their profiles, look at their websites, their testimonials. But I'm going to say this too, just because somebody doesn't have a lot of testimonials doesn't mean they're not a good life coach. They may have been coaching their whole life, but just set a business up.
Yep.
So they may not have 30. So look at what the people are saying about them. If it's a 2 sentence life coaching I would say, I don't know. But if somebody can write a nice review on them, 3, 4, 5, 6 sentences or more, then you know that person's sincere. But if somebody can't come up with a good review and it's only 1 or 2 sentences, yeah, they were great, they helped me with blah, blah, blah,
Right.
and they can't go into detail, then I would stay away.
Or just scrutinize it a little closer.
Yeah, right.
I'll share with you.
Yeah.
I was getting a psychiatrist for my daughter, and I had somebody look at the credentials of this person, and they said, "Whoa, this person's good based on all of this right here." So finally set up an appointment. Communication was pretty decent in getting that appointment, and it was odd that I was looping my daughter in for a Zoom, and he was more fixated on where I was, in my car. So I thought that was a little odd. Doesn't matter. This is not what's important. Um, and then even during that dialogue, he wasn't even looking at me on the Zoom. He was like this over here typing, yeah, blah 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 blah. Blah. He did the same thing with my daughter, and I just felt very uncomfortable. And I speak like I'm speaking now. I just said,
Yeah.
I wonder how that went, in terms of, and even, our dialogue and his follow up after his appointment with my daughter. He actually fired himself from the gig. He said, yeah, I don't think we're a good fit. I don't think it's going to work. And I said, well, I need attention from somebody, and I don't believe you're actually giving attention. I looked at his reviews, tons of reviews. Some people even said, I think that he's paying for reviews. And sure enough,
Okay. Yeah.
I looked at all the negative reviews. All the negative reviews said exactly what I'm describing.
Yeah.
And even to the point where, he had appointments like 9, 10 o'clock at night, which I thought was kind of odd, but hey, if you're available, great. I didn't need one that late. And that, somebody even said, think about that. Why is he wait? Because he was just churning these out, just making cash over and over, bang out a
Yeah.
15-minute appointment, bill, on to the next one, on to the next one, while he's on Facebook doing what he needed to do. So yeah, my point here is, they might want to make a long point here is, but
Right.
you go with your gut, and
Right.
even looking at the negative reviews, they're going to tell a story, and if you see a common theme there with everybody writing some of the same stuff, yeah, maybe that's something to look at.
Yes.
Yeah.
And look at their specialization. You
Mm.
need to know if you're looking for a business coach, a spiritual coach, a personal trainer, weight loss, what is it you're really seeking? Because if you don't know, then you're going to pick the wrong coach.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And I think we should mention here, no matter who you pick, you have to be prepared to do the work.
yes, yes,
It's not just click the Zoom button and spend 45 minutes, hour, or whatever with somebody every week and expect magic to happen in a short period of time. Not going to happen. Sorry. Everything
yeah,
work.
yeah. It's up to you to want to do the work, and it's not easy. I mean, I do it all the time with coaches, and you have to you have to want it, and you can only BS yourself. You know, you're
Yeah.
whether it's a therapist, a coach, a teacher, whoever, they don't care if you do your homework or not. It's no skin off their back.
Yeah.
I feel bad as a coach if you don't do it because it prolongs your breakthrough. But you're paying me. You signed the contract. You're going to pay me whether however many sessions it is. So why wouldn't you do the work?
Right. And
Eh,
you want to see progress.
oh, absolutely.
You're excited on your end, and it's got to be deflating for you if you see somebody not doing what they need to do. How about we look at maybe just one example of what work is when you work with a life coach?
Life coach.
Everybody's different, but maybe
Yeah.
call it an assignment or whatever, just
Yeah.
any broad example.
So for me, you have action sheets that you do, action steps that you do. You agree to 3 to 4 action steps at the end of each session. So you have to complete them. And then I have sheets that you do, worksheets that you do, depending on what we're talking about. Are you overcoming fear of rejection, fear of failure, anything like that we've talked about. And then during the week, I'll send you a video with some questions that you have to answer that pertains to what we worked on throughout the week
Hmm.
and where I see they need some help.
How do
Uh,
you know if they've done the work? Do you just, point blank just say, did you take care of the stuff I gave you? Or is there accountability where you're going to ask them to, let's say, you ask them to write 4 things they're grateful for? I'm totally
yeah,
here.
no,
Would you ask them to read that back to you?
no. What you do is, I was fortunate to meet the life coach that I did to help me set up my business. So there's like jot forms and all these forms, and at the end of every session, you fill out what your action steps are, and then before your next session, then 24 hours before, you fill out whether you've completed them or not, and why not, and what you struggled with, and what worked well.
Okay.
So you're either lying to yourself, you're lying to yourself. You're not lying to me if you say yes, you completed them all, and you didn't.
For the people that don't do the work, do you feel that they don't think it's important? They don't think it's going to make a difference. Maybe they look at it as like, I'm talking to, my life coach. It should be okay. I don't need to do that a little extra stuff over there.
Some people, yes, especially if they have the money to buy whatever they want.
Okay.
Like, and I don't mean that against anybody that's got a lot of
I
money. I
got you.
just mean in general that, they might think, oh, I don't need to do that. I'll just pay for somebody to do it, or something like that down the
Yeah.
road. Where other people, it's a fear. I'm going to use myself as a good example. I don't like to just, I don't like a big circle of friends. I like a small circle. I feel comfortable. I feel safe, but on my social medias, in order for people to see me, I've got to build them up to 4,000 people. Well, I don't like to go in and just click to be my friend because I don't know you. I don't know if I want to be friends with you. You know what I mean? I
Hmm.
don't know if I want your stuff on my site, but I have to do it. And it was a battle with me and my life coach because I didn't know if I really wanted to do it. So it took quite a while for me to finally say, you've got to do this.
Hmm. Wow.
Yeah.
What was holding you back so much? Your privacy?
Yeah. Well, fear though, because the more people you reach, it's more attention on you. So
Okay.
I kind of shrunk back. I'm like, okay, I don't need these people knowing, everything or whatever. So I had to deal with that. I had to work through it. And, if your coach, which is good. Mine was very good. She was patient with me, kind with me, and worked me through it. So now I can friend people and be okay with it. But it took a little bit.
Hmm. Interesting. Um, I would assume you're just a very private person.
Yeah, I'm an introvert, so I don't,
Hmm.
like I said, I like, yeah, I like more privacy, not privacy, but just a smaller group of people. But I'm not like technology. I'm not illiterate. I know how to use it, but I don't know all the ins and outs of all these social media stuff. And it changes every 60, 90 days. And it's like, I can't keep up with all that, and nor do I want to. But she's like, just, you can, I guess, Google how to have a close friends group through Facebook or whatever. So you just Google that and then you set it up. So the people that you do care about can stay, you can see their stuff more.
Gotcha. Yeah. I totally get it. It's
Yeah.
and even on the social media side, I'm more public, but I will never post something unless there's a benefit to somebody, whether
Yeah.
it's a laugh, whether it's interesting, whether it's gonna maybe emotionally move you, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
I just won't just throw garbage out there. It's just not me.
Yeah.
It's got to help somebody, benefit somebody in some way.
Right.
Um, and that could even just be an accomplishment that you think others would appreciate. Maybe they'd see something in themselves. But yeah, I totally gotcha. And
Yeah.
from time to time we weed people out. you know,
Yes.
and unfortunately, if you have more friends, likes, followers, whatever platform you're on, a lot of times they use algorithms where you don't see the people you really want to see.
That was it. Yeah.
There's others, and it's like, okay, I'm unfollow, or on Facebook you can snooze somebody for 30 days. My thinking is move them over to the side so maybe others will come in. Thank you, Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah.
But yeah, I forget about some good friends from back in the day. Like, where did they ever go? And then it'll pop in my head and I'll click their profile. I'm like, well, they're living well and thriving.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
yeah, well,
So
it's
yeah, yeah. And don't be afraid to interview your coaches.
for sure.
When you do your clarity call, however they set it up, you know, we all have these things where we want people to sign up right away, obviously. But if you're uncertain, listen to your gut.
Hmm.
You don't feel the pressure to have to do that.
I
Say I'll
totally.
get back to you because you're going to regret that automatic decision versus waiting and finding the right person.
I will say something about you based on what we just talked about. So many people haven't found themselves and are not comfortable in themselves, where it sounds like you are.
Yeah, it took me a long time to get there, but yes, I
Yeah.
am. Yep.
And usually, based on my journey, things going on, I always do something with other people. I've always got something going on. Somebody. It was only until like a little more than a year ago, I did something alone for the first time. You know what it was?
What?
I had dinner at a restaurant.
Really?
I had never done it. And it was just late. I was working like 8 o'clock at night. I'm like, I gotta get something to eat. You know what? I'm just gonna roll up to the Applebee's. And I went up there and was like, yeah, guess people are gonna look at you. You're alone there eating. Of course, there's other people alone there eating. I know. Yeah, I get over
Yep.
that, because I'm always, doing something. Um, Let me say that was the best meal and best beer I've ever had.
Yep.
Why? Because I was focused on it
Yeah.
and me, and just enjoyed it. Because when you're with somebody else, even if it's a great person, you're focusing on the conversation with them. So it's like you're giving half of yourself away at that time. Nothing wrong with
Yes.
that, but sometimes you need your own time. Um, so that's what it took. you know.
Yeah. I take myself out to dinner all the time. All the
Mhm.
time. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's one thing. I bring a book with me and I'll sit there, and I'll read and take notes and out of it, depending on what it is. And yeah.
yeah. Totally get it. And looking forward to that maybe sometime this weekend, even if it's going to rain on one of the days. I want to get my kayak back in the water and we're
Yep.
starting at the right temperature. And that's my thing too. I just take it down and just float. and that's it. That's my reading. I read the water.
Yeah.
Read the reeds.
Meditate, whatever you got to do. And,
Yep.
there's nothing better than doing something for you.
Absolutely.
And if you're struggling with that, a life coach can help you with that.
For sure.
I know I can help somebody learn to be not alone where they never want to be around anybody, but in that peaceful state that when you are alone. So many people sit in their cars and scroll for hours because they don't want to go in the house alone on their phones. They pull into their parking spot and then they sit outside and just scroll and scroll. And then they're like, oh, I guess I got to go inside. It's time for bed or, whatever. So, yeah. It's,
one word comes to mind with all of that. The word peace. I used to hear that all the time. Even going, I'm not very religious, but even back in the day going to church and people say, peace be with you, peace be with you. And I never got it. And now I get it. There's this peace in yourself. You need to find that. I guess it's, the inner peace, if you will.
Yes.
I appreciate you and what you offer and what you do, because you are probably one of, if not the most genuine life coach I've ever met.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Without a doubt, your desire to help people, your energy, your honesty, very hard to find. I feel like if I'm going to your website and sending you an email and want to have that dialogue, I feel like, I'm halfway there to talking to a friend who can help me. And that's major pluses there. You don't find that a lot.
Thank you. That's my goal in life, is just help somebody through something that I already experienced, that they don't have to suffer as long. Well, a couple quick things. Make sure you discuss the fee and the availability so that it fits into your schedule, and really look at your contract and agreement. Because you want to know how long you're signing it for, what's the payment? Is it up front? Is it every other week? And also, don't be afraid if you can't afford it. Tell them you can't afford it. Don't hem and haw, to be honest with the coach, because they respect that.
Yep.
And maybe they have a scholarship. I was blessed by my life coach. She gave me $1,000 scholarship.
Wow.
And I was able to afford her services for a couple of years.
And even if you hop on board with somebody, sometimes there's life changes.
Yes.
Something changed in your life, and now you have to pivot some cash in this direction, but you still want to work with somebody. Bring it up, and maybe you can come to a happy medium.
Absolutely.
How do we find you? What's your website?
thehydratedlife.net. Yep.
And when we talk about hydrated, we're not just talking about water. I look at it as, if you have a thirst for happiness, peace, and success in your life, you need to get hydrated by Patti.
Yes.
Out there. Patti, great insight today. Wonderful talking with you today, and past podcast episodes. And I got a feeling somehow we'll connect again at some point in the future.
I agree. Yep.
Yeah. All right. We'll talk soon. Thanks again.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Same.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.